Well, analyzing other people's games is never an easy thing to do, and especially at this very high level. This game was played between Kamsky and Ivanchuk, both rated way over 2700. Ivanchuk is currently rated 2781, and this game was played at the Tal Memorial Blitz 4 or 5 days ago. And what I'm gonna do here is that I will simply go through the game move by move, but I'm not going to explain every move, of course, but I'm going to explain the most obvious move, so to speak. So we begin with knight f3, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5. This is the symmetrical English, echo a34. This is all book. And after queen c4, we can see that the pawn here. So, and this is the level I will more or less be on. I will simply explain the threats and stuff, and all this in just 10 minutes, of course. So I can't go into any great details. But knight e6 is a book move, and it protects the pawn over here on c5. Kamsky played d3, but the book move here, I believe, book opening theory gives b4. C takes b4, queen takes b4, knight c6, queen b1, knight a5, and queen c2. This would have been the whole line, but after d3, both players are out of book. Knight c6, queen to h4. Other moves would have been, for example, sample variation rook b1, queen a5, bishop d2, knight e to d4, knight takes d4, c takes d4, knight e4, and queen b6. But instead of that, queen to h4, and the game almost proceeded in those lines, except that black took with the knight. Bishop g5, rook e8, protecting the pawn on e7, rook h1, h6, bishop d2. Of course, black cannot take the pawn on h6 because, well, if it takes, then knight f5 forks both the bishop and the knight, so that doesn't work. So the bishop goes back to d2. Rook b8, and the point with rook b8, I suppose, is to free up the bishop over here, so because of the move. Otherwise, the pawn on b7 hangs, and of course, black cannot play a move like b6 because then the rook would hang. g4, king h7. Now there was a threat, of course, to take the pawn over here because there was no knight f5 fork because of the pawn move, g4. King h7, h7 protects the pawn on h6, and rook after e1. This is actually an equal game. b6, knight e4, bishop b7, bishop f4, and again this move, the pawn fork, does not work because white will simply take, and black can't take back because the h pawn is pinned. And here Ivanchuk sacrifices the exchange, as we can see here. Other moves would have been, for example, bishop takes e4, if bishop takes b8, then just bishop takes g2, king takes g2, and after queen takes b8. Black is actually better here because he has two light pieces or minor pieces for a rook. So for example, after one rook is traded off, then it will be a rook against a knight and a bishop, which is usually a better option for whoever chooses that to trade off like that. Otherwise, bishop takes e4, d takes e4, e5, queen takes d8, rook b or e takes the either way, and bishop g3. But that was not played, so instead of that, black played knight to e6, giving up the exchange. So takes, rook b1, obviously protecting the pawn. Knight f4, bishop f3, other moves, for example g5, and then just h5, bishop f3, bishop d5, and of course the queen protects the knight. But white played bishop f3, king g8, g5, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, h takes g5, queen g3. Of course, white cannot take the pawn because, well, there's a fork. So queen g3, bishop e5, and here we have, here's a little threat, of course, king f1, because black was threatening to take over here with check, and of course the discovery on the queen. But black takes the pawn anyway, because there's still a discovery, except that there's no check. Queen takes g5, so white wins back the pawn anyway. Bishop f6, and here we have a repetition of moves, more or less. I don't know what to say about these moves. And I actually believe that black is better here. And the queens come off, and the pawn falls on h2. Rook h4, bishop a6, g5. And again, white cannot take because there's a fork over here. King g2. Now black can take, but g4. Sorry, white could have taken, but after g4, rook h1, the rooks come off. And it's a little bit surprising that if we look at this game materialistically, so to speak, I mean, if you look at what's on the board, we can see that white has a rook and a bishop against a knight and a bishop. But on the other hand, black is much more active, and there's not all that much white can do. Bishop takes b2, and now black is even better, of course, when he wins a piece. Sorry, a pawn. f4, up and so. G takes f3, rook f2, check, king h2, another discovery, but there's no threat. Knight e4 check, with the discovery over here. King g2, knight c3, a3, king f6, rook h3, knight d5, rook h7, knight c7, attacking the bishop on a6. Bishop c8, b5, king f3, a5, and those pawns really start marching down the board. Bishop d7, a4, rook h1, b4, a takes b4, and now the pawn just is unstoppable. There's no way to stop that pawn. b5, a2, b6, knight a6. The knight holds the queen in square. And after king g5, white resigned, because, for example, rook h1, queens, or rook or queen, either way, just takes, and after bishop takes a1, black is just completely winning the game. I hope you enjoy this, and see you soon.